Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. My name is Yoshi and in today's video I am going to talk about the Motorola Edge 50 Ultra, the phone I just found here in the woods. And I got lucky because I was able to test and play around with the smartphone over the past few months. And today, you can clearly see I am in the woods again, and I already tested my previous smartphones in this forest. So what better location than play around with this smartphone and showcase you what this phone is capable of. And I can promise you, I already played around with it over the past few months and it's really capable of doing some incredible stuff. But enough of talking, let's discover together what a smartphone can do. Now this smartphone was launched with a really cool slogan, which was "When intelligence meets art." So what Motorola did was really impressive. You can see this smartphone here is protected with this plastic cover, but the smartphone is built from wood. And as for the rest, you can see it has 3 lenses, and one of those 3 lenses is a macro lens. The other lens is a really impressive one because that's a tele lens, and then the main lens, which is this one, is basically a lens which can zoom in up to 3 times with the optical zoom. And that feature, guys, is really impressive. Now I'm gonna continue my walk a little bit and check for some interesting compositions before I start to showcase you what this phone can do. But in the meantime, I will show you how you are able to basically launch the camera app, and that's still the same as with all other smartphones by Motorola, with the so-called Moto-action. All you have to do is twist it a little bit around and voila, the smartphone will instantly open up the camera app. Like in September, I did travel all the way to South Africa. Now South Africa, back in September, spring started to kick in. It was a bit colder, but we also had some days with above 35 degrees Celsius. So the smartphone was really put to the test at cold temperatures, warmer temperatures, in dusty environments. So I really was able to play around with it and put it really to the test. We also did some safaris early in the morning, close to sunrise. I did snap some photos during sunset as well. So low light conditions, all those things, I will talk about them in a bit, but I put it all to the test. Now, similar to my previous video with the Motorola Edge 20, I am going to showcase you how I play around and navigate through the camera app, show and talk about several things this phone can do and the functionalities of the camera app, and that way I will guide you through it. So let's jump straight into the camera app, and first of all I will show you the basics, and these are really simple. First of all, you have the wide angle lens, 1x zoom, which is used by the main camera, and you can already see how smooth it switches between the different lenses and modes. And what's new about the smartphone, the Motorola Edge 50 Ultra, is that the main camera lens, so the 1x zoom, offers a 3x optical zoom. So that means no digital zoom, but an optical lens, which is featured here, and it basically zooms in practice and really helps to maintain the quality of your photos without losing anything or by introducing noise due to digital zooming. I'll showcase that here in a minute. And then you also have 6x zoom, but please keep in mind, guys, that's a digital zoom. And then here you can apply some real life filters. I'm not gonna showcase them all, but you can use them combined with all types of lenses. Now I'm gonna switch back to the wide angle lens because I want to snap some photos over here. I really love this bend here. The weather has been bad over the past few weeks and I've been busy, a bit sick, so it was really about time to get out again. These are the basic functionalities of the camera app, and mainly photos. And then here you can tap to freeze the action. Basically what this function does is it applies basically a faster shutter speed, so whenever you are shooting moving objects or animals or persons and you want them to freeze mid action, then you should tap that button. Otherwise it might be possible that you get a lot of motion blur, because in that case the phone will focus on exposing correctly, and a long shutter speed means you will get motion blur, and you don't want that if you want to capture something in action. Then you have here natural or auto enhance feature. So that's basically AI features as well. What it does is it applies some basic sharpening, so it basically requires some more time to capture a photo, but the details will be way better, and I will show you that here. So that's the normal one, and now I'm gonna snap auto enhance. So these two photos are auto enhanced. Yeah, the difference is minimal, but you can clearly see it retains more details in the highlights. They're not that blown up. Oh, and now it starts to rain. But one other interesting thing about the smartphone is that it's completely waterproof. So apart from that, you have the auto flash, no flash, or force the phone to use a flash. I have to say I always force the phone to not use the flash, because I don't love to shoot with a flash, or I don't like it that the phone starts to decide in my place to use this flash or not. I'm gonna do we'll do one more, the natural one, so you can easily compare. Yeah, it retains a bit more details in the highlights. There we go. Can play around with how the light interacts here on this walkway, like this. And in addition, I will play around with the macro lens and show you the difference between the main lens and the macro lens. And to be fair, I prefer to use the main lens more, and I prefer to use the macro lens. Put this leaf over here. You can also pick the correct aspect ratio you prefer. I always prefer to shoot in 3:4, but you can also decide to shoot in a 9:16, 1:1, or pick the aspect ratio of the smartphone. But I'm gonna stick with 3:4. And first of all, the first shot is simply a picture of the leaf, like this. So I focus on the leaf itself by tapping on the leaf, and then one more horizontal, and now I'm gonna pick the macro function and see the difference. So what I clearly can see is it has more details. Right here, that's the power of the macro function, but it has less depth of field in the photo. Whereas here, if I focus, it won't be able to focus at all, but I can focus in the distance. So basically, the macro function allows you to get closer to your subject while still maintaining details. And maybe I can't get close enough to the water, but I love how some leaves over here float underwater. So what I'm gonna do is use the 3x zoom and then snap a photo of the leaf like this, and maybe one more like this. And if I even use the 6x zoom, you can see the difference over here, like that. Now you can clearly see some water ripples on the water surface, and that's due to a little bit of wind, some insects that might disturb your photo over here. So what I'm gonna do is showcase you the long exposure function in the camera app, and basically that's all thanks to artificial intelligence. First of all, you can pick a type of subject or a type of shot you want to take. You have the option to choose between traffic trails, water and clouds, light painting or star trails. Now, as you clearly can see, the app already suggests you to use a tripod, but I can guarantee you for some types of photos, like the long exposures of water surfaces, it's not necessary to shoot with a tripod, because the phone will basically adapt for that in some way. Now you need some steady hands, otherwise it won't work at all, but it has the possibility and the power to create some really beautiful photos. Now a long exposure will enable us to remove all these wrinkles. And this feature is available on the main camera only, using the 1x zoom and the triple zoom. Tap on the leaf over here, like this, and then all I'm gonna do is hold it for 10 seconds. You can play around with exposure time, and you can clearly see, I will show it on full screen, that the phone will basically start to zoom in, and that's because it starts to correct for movements made by myself. Now if you move too much, what it will do is basically show a prompt that it failed to snap the photo because you didn't keep the phone still for a long time. Now you can clearly see the leaf is not in focus, but it did do a really great job. Now this feature was really helpful and is really beautiful whenever you decide to go out on a hike and spot a waterfall. You didn't bring any ND filters with you, but you want those beautiful, smooth, silky water surfaces, or those smooth water features in your photo. And that's exactly what I did in South Africa. So right now I am going to pop up some photos and maybe a little video on screen showcasing how I was able to snap these photos with this smartphone. And guys, it's really impressive. Nothing faked, nothing at all. This is pure snapped with this phone. So that's one of the most important features I loved the most about the smartphone, and I played a lot with in South Africa. I played around with the long exposure for stars as well, but my exposure time was not long enough. But you can really play around in a creative way with the long exposure feature. For instance, we were sitting next to a campfire. It was really cold outside. Yeah, you have those typical sparks, fire getting out of the fireplace basically. So if you capture those sparks, yeah, well, then you get some light rails basically, and those light rails are really beautiful to photograph. And that's how I played in a creative way with this long exposure feature. So I already talked about the photo mode. I already talked about the long exposure mode. Then you have the portrait mode. Portrait mode is only available with the cameras in the back, not with the selfie camera. And basically what it enables you to do is play around with different focal lengths. So you have 24mm, 35, 50mm, which is the standard or default focal length for snapping portrait shots. And then you have 85mm. That's basically the 50mm equivalent whenever you're shooting on a full frame camera. All the important focal lengths are here in the app. And here, if you hit the F, you can play around with the aperture all the way from 1 to 6. So this enables you how much bokeh or background blur you will have in your photo. I don't have any use for that feature right now. It's gonna be a bit more difficult to find a model here in the woods at this time during the day. And to be fair, it's getting cold as well. Then you have the Pro mode. And basically using the Pro mode you can play around with all types of settings. You can do everything by hand, set everything in manual. You can play around with the focus, manual focus, autofocus, macro focus, or focus far in the distance, which is perfect to shoot any type of nightscapes such as the Milky Way. And then here you have white balance, shutter speed, ISO, and exposure correction or compensation. You have a histogram over here. You can make it disappear. You can pick RAW or RAW plus JPEG or JPEG as well. So whenever you want to play around with high quality photos and you want to retain a lot of shadows and highlights from your photos, please shoot in RAW. So that's a pro mode. You have scan mode. It's perfect to scan any type of document, and I can guarantee you guys this feature is really useful because I don't have a printer at home anymore. But this feature is really impressive because thanks to AI it really easily crops in on a document. It doesn't leave any traces of the background or traces from the table if your papers are lying on the table. No, basically only captures in a sharp way the document. A really impressive and useful feature. And then we have the video. I'm gonna talk about it later on. And last but not least, we have the main menu. And in this main menu, well, you can already see it, way more options. Now I'm gonna skip all of the video features right now because that's a whole different video. So let me talk about spot color, night vision, panoramic, ultra resolution, dual capture, and photo booth and tilt shift. Now you can see first of all that spot color has two options. You have it two times: spot color normal and spot color with a play icon. Yeah, well, you can guess it. Whenever this play icon here is involved, here we are talking about video and photo. So you can use this feature for both video as well as photo. I'm gonna showcase spot color on this mushroom and play around with Macrolens for that. So we have a mushroom over here, like that. And that's the difference. Oh, yeah. Well, what I don't like about this phone is that you can enable auto macro. Now it's easy, but sometimes it jumps whenever you don't want that to happen. Up. Okay. Like this. So now I took a bunch of photos using the normal and the macro lens, and right now I'm going to go to more and use spot color. So spot color, basically you will get a tutorial if it's the first time you use it. So basically you have to pick a color, let's say this brown, like that, and now you can reduce all of the other colors in your frame up to a certain amount you want it, and then it will basically remove all color from the shot except for that color. So for instance, green, you can add even more colors like this, and now all the green will be removed from the shot. So yellow here, pick yellow, and all colors will be removed from the shot except for the yellow. And then we have night vision. Night vision is available with the wide angle lens, with the normal lens at 1 and 3 times zoom. And this feature basically especially developed for low light conditions. Now you can enable the phone to switch automatically to that feature whenever it's getting darker. And what it does, it will allow for a longer exposure time, meaning you will have to keep the phone way more steady in your hands or use a tripod. But in return, you will get less noise and retain more details. Oh, it's getting really muddy over here. So that's this feature. Really useful, really beautiful feature, but I don't use it too often. And then next feature, Panorama. Well, Panorama speaks for itself, I guess. Tap the Panorama function and your smartphone will basically help you out to create a panoramic shot in any direction of your preference. You just hold the phone, start moving it around, and in whatever direction you're using your phone or moving your phone, it will start snapping a panoramic. So like this, for instance. And it will guide you. So if I move up, it will say, yeah, you're moving a bit upward. That's not what you should do for snapping a beautiful panoramic shot. So it will guide you to correct. And then you can also hold the phone vertical and move in a horizontal way. That way you get way more details in the sky and on the ground. So that's how you can snap panoramic shots all the way to 360 degrees. Depends on what you prefer. The next feature is the ultra resolution. And ultra resolution, well, it speaks for itself. It will snap multiple photos, and those multiple photos will be stitched together. So basically what it's gonna do is combine different pixels together to obtain a photo with a total resolution of 50 million pixels. 50 million pixels is a lot. If you don't use that feature, you will snap the photo in 12 million pixels, because that's the actual resolution of this smartphone. Guys, don't let people convince you to buy a certain smartphone because of their pixels. I'm not saying that it's a trick to cheat on you, but it's just a way of marketing. You don't need too many million pixels to snap beautiful photos. In fact, 12 million pixels, guys, is more than enough and way more important for snapping beautiful videos rather than having 50 million pixels in actual resolution, because that way your photos will be beautiful but get a lot of noise. If you can decide between noise or higher video quality, I think that people will decide and pick more video quality. So that's ultra resolution. A lot of details. Do you need it? In my opinion, not. It's nice to have if you really need the quality, but other than that, it's gonna deliver you high quality photos with big file sizes, and you don't want to put all those heavy files on your computer and never look back at them. So unless you really need it, don't use that feature at all, guys. Just my honest opinion. Oh, one thing, if I'm talking about file sizes, you don't need to worry about that, because this smartphone has an internal memory of 1 terabyte by default, at least here in Belgium. Last but not least, we have dual capture, and dual capture speaks for itself. What it does, it basically records a video using the selfie camera like this and records video or photo, it depends, on the rear camera. You can also switch between different layouts and play around with the lens. So you have wide angle, normal lens, or the 3x zoom lens. So those are the possibilities with dual camera. And this feature also exists for video. And then last but not least, we have tilt shift and photo boot. I will start with tilt shift. Tilt shift, basically, I don't love this feature. I think it's unnecessary for most of us, because you can edit this effect in later on in Photoshop or Lightroom. Now, if you don't have this program, yeah, well, I can understand it's nice to have in your phone, but if you don't love the effect anymore, you basically ruined a shot because you wanted to play around with this effect. So is it necessary? No, but it's nice if you don't have any editing programs. Now, what tilt shift does is it basically enables you to narrow down your field of focus, so it will apply some blur at the upper part of the screen and the lower part of the screen. You can play around with this. So I will show you a clear example. For instance, we have this composition, for instance. So what you can do here is make it taller, smaller, and what it will do is blur the foreground, the background or the sky, and it will only focus in this area basically. Now you can do some creative stuff with it, but as an option, like I said, don't shoot it in camera because you will not be able to do anything else with the photo. Do it in post-production. You will have complete freedom. So if you want this effect, just apply it later on. And then last but not least, photo boot. Photo boot is a nice feature for those of us who love to shoot content for TikTok and Snapchat and other social media platforms that involve a lot of selfies, because basically this feature involves taking 3 different selfies and the camera will stick them together in one collage. So you can play around with it and you can enable some automatic adjustments, face adjustments. I'm just gonna apply the normal one, and what it does, it counts down. Like this. Oh, it's 4. And then it will combine them all together in one nice and cool composition. And that, guys, is collage or photo boot. So you can take it quite literally. It's a nice feature. It will create some really funny moments for sure. But as a photographer, no, I don't need it at all. So Motorola really brought some features to the smartphone that are pleasing for a broad audience. We have features for the pros, features for people who love video, features who love to play around with creative filters and selfies. A broad spectrum of features all in this phone. So that's it, guys, regarding the features of this smartphone and its capabilities for snapping photos. As you clearly can see, it's capable of some impressive stuff. Some things are completely new, overhauled or improved. Some features are not my thing, but I think it has a broad audience and the smartphone is made for creators, content creators in a broad spectrum, varying from the professional photographers and videographers, influencers, people who love to take some nice and collect some funny moments, create collages, create creative photos and don't want the hassle of editing later on. So all types of photography are covered, and the most impressive one, in my opinion, is a long exposure thanks to artificial intelligence. But now let me talk in short about the impressive video features. And I'm going to limit it to the main camera simply because you can clearly see it starts to become colder and colder. My nose and my eyes are starting to tear and is becoming darker. But the smartphone has some really impressive AI tracking features. You can enable them, disable them depending on your preferences, but it's really impressive what this phone can do right now. And I really put these features combined all together to the test during my trip in South Africa. So maybe it's just enough to show you what I was able to do with a smartphone in South Africa. And with those words, I will end this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to showcase more features of the smartphone, talk about different features, showcase more in depth on how to record video with the smartphone. Anything, any questions you have, let them know in the comments down below. That being said, I really hope you loved this video. If you did, please consider hitting the thumbs up button, consider subscribing for more videos, and then the only thing that rests me to say is that you don't need to be great to start, but start to become great. See you in the next video. Bye!